Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Continuing with the debt crisis, the budget battle, and the effects Obamacare will have on the nation. Maury, do you know what the most popular query is on the Obamacare website?
I don't have a clue.
How do I avoid this?
Doesn't surprise me a bit. Of course, why?
If it's such a good plan, why does Congress want out of it?
Who said it was such a good plan?
The president and the administration and his media
You know
hacks.
the history of it. It goes back to Rahm Emanuel, who said, never miss a chance to take advantage of an opportunity.
Crisis.
They knew. We go back again to the basic situation early in 2009 when Obama had not only the White House, he had the Senate and the House, and he had $1 trillion to play with. And at that time, infrastructure, like Roosevelt, could have been a big thing. It could have gotten this country moving back again. No, they were going to use that money for two things. One was Obamacare, and the other one was cap and trade. So his climatological purity, which he thought he was going to save the world after 4 billion years from asphyxiating because of CO2 and greenhouse gases. That was what he wanted to do. He didn't care about employment. This man is one of the most emotionally involved in theories that I've ever seen. He is not interested in employment, only in the votes that got it for him in order to get over the second election. And the amazing thing is he is continuing to try to project his own basic priorities onto this country, which are foreign to this country. How many people really are that concerned about what I call climatological purity? The basic thesis that have been written about this stuff, there's some people that say it's hurting us. Other people say it's been around for a long time. 4 billion years, it's been too hot, it's been too cold. Then others say, well, we've now got 7 billion people in the world.
But the fact is, it hasn't been warming for the last 15 years.
I understand, but don't give me logic. I'm trying to project what I think is the thinking of the man in the White House, who has no interest in logical questions and answers.
Let's get back to the Obamacare effects on the country.
Okay.
We've talked about this before.
Yes.
The part-time employment that's happening in the country. The big
and
businesses
just starting
are
to
exempt.
happen.
The Muslims are exempt. The Amish are exempt. Native Americans are exempt. There's over 2,000 exemptions. Is there anywhere?
And all big businesses exempt.
Is there anywhere in the Constitution that allows you to pass a bill and then implement parts you want and parts you don't want?
You know what?
And it's a tax on top of it.
You are so rational and you are so naive at the same time. It's I know what life under dictatorship is all about. I grew up under it. I understand how it works.
I don't.
I know.
And I don't like it.
I know you don't like it, but I'm telling you, that's what you're getting, the soft touch. You're not getting a guy who's going out in the street and murdering minorities by the millions. I mean, he's not doing that. But what he's doing is he pays no attention to the restrictions being put on him by our forefathers and everybody else since that time. Look, we go back to John Roberts, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, who by all that's holy should have voted against Obamacare, and it should have been made unconstitutional.
Now, if they tried to bring that up to Congress or to the American people and say it was a tax, it would have never passed. It took John Roberts turning it into a tax in order to make this thing go through.
My big question is, why did he suddenly become a supporter of Obama? And I think that's not open to discussion because we don't know. That would only be speculation. The thing that I don't want to open up an old question which we can't answer, but it was very strange that he ran out of this country very quickly and spent
right after that.
Right after that, and he was in Malta, which is about as obscure
far away as you can get.
As you can get. So, but the point is, you see, you are a person that has a questioning mind. I mean, your intelligence says, but why? Why is this happening? Because you haven't related yourself to the kind of governmental structure we have today, which pays no attention to any restrictions that are being put on the legislature.
And you don't have an opposition party fighting it. That's the problem.
You said it, and you're right. We don't have a counterpoint to what's going on today. And we've discussed this early on, that this whole problem of a government shutdown, which is being held over the American people and over the Republican Party, saying you guys are making it, it's your fault that we're going to have a shutdown, and the consequences will be yours.
Well, you sent me a fax earlier about the consequences of past government shutdowns going back to the 1700s, and we're still here. I mean, the government shuts down every Saturday and Sunday, and basically 50 more times for ridiculous holidays throughout the year, and everything functions.
But it's a scare tactic.
It is a scare tactic.
A lot of people don't realize it. It's like the end of the world. You know, the worst ones came under Clinton before the election. You know, he was reelected in 1996. We had 2 government shutdowns in 95 and 96.
And do you realize that economic data actually improved during those 2 years? And the unemployment rate went down in 96?
I understand that, but you see...
Again, we're dealing with facts versus theory.
Yeah, but also you had one other thing. You had Newt Gingrich. They were both...
A strong leader opposing.
You got 2 gigantic egos, Clinton and Gingrich, but they were rational people. They were patriotic Americans.
They reformed Medicaid?
And also they went from welfare to workfare.
And we also balanced the budget and had a surplus for the first time.
Yeah, but because Newt Gingrich saw things differently than Bill Clinton, but each one were basically American in their outlook, what's good for America. Totally different points of view, but Clinton had a lot of faults, but he does listen. And if he thinks that what the other guy says is to his benefit and also to the benefit of the country, that's what happened. That's why, you know, same with Reagan and the Speaker of the House at that time. What was his name?
Tip O'Neill?
Tip O'Neill. They got along. Clinton, Gingrich, Tip O'Neill, Reagan were 2 examples of how the 2 parties really got along once they realized you can't just bulldoze one way or the other.
And it worked.
It worked perfectly.
And so I don't know what Republicans are scared over, thinking that this is going to be disastrous for them, because it actually worked out very well for them in 95 and 96.
Yes,
are they that short term? A lot of them were even there then.
But you've got to get back to one word that I've used over and over. Leadership, leadership,
Lack of leadership.
Lack of leadership. You've got an amateur against a sinister professional. The sinister professional will win.
An excellent way to term that.
That's exactly what it is. And if you had somebody on the Republican side who was a leader of that type and had the experience and the, shall we say, the ability to twist things in their favor, just like Obama and the Obamacrats are twisting things in their favor, it would be a much easier battle to win.
So where does the debt stop? I mean, at some point, don't we have to just put a little bit of a restraint here? And here's my other question. They're keeping interest rates ridiculously low.
Oh, that's the Fed.
And so if interest rates go up 2%, we're looking at almost 100% interest on the debt.
Okay, I have an interesting answer for you because I was prepared for that question. Do you know why the debt is not as much of a backbreaker as it was maybe a couple years ago? Because of the gigantic natural resource reserves. You know, when people now look at the United States, they don't look at the United States as they did 5 years ago, you know, a country that does a good job of changing raw material into finished goods. Exports were just starting to come up. By the way, exports today are doing great, including oil derivatives, which are being sent down to South America, Mexico, and so on. But the big thing about it is, do you know that the net worth of this country today, taking all the households all together, is somewhere close to $90 trillion. It's actually up from where it was in 2007. On top of that, you've got about $150 trillion of natural resources in this country.
In spite of the EPA.
In spite of the EPA. Now, why do I bring this up? When the rest of the world, why does China continue to look at this country as a great investment opportunity? Why does the world look at the United States as their #1 investment opportunity right now?
Natural gas, oil, shale,
yes, exactly.
fracking.
Even you know, solar's coming along with. I'll give credit to the supplemental value brought by the renewables. But the point is, We are a very, very rich country, and you know, it's like a billionaire loses $1 billion, you still got $19 billion left. That's where we are today, in spite of the EPA, in spite of Obama. We are a richer country today than we were 5 years ago, much richer because of our natural resources.
And that's the key, is that the natural resources we have in this country will fuel any kind of debt that we have.
By far. And don't think whether you're a sovereign wealth fund from Singapore or from Norway. Hey, wait a second. What country in the world can be anywhere near the United States? We still have a gross domestic product that's passing gross $16 trillion. You look at a little state like North Dakota with the Bakken Belt. Do you know 5 years from now, you know what their production is going to be? They're going to be producing 4 to 5 million barrels a day. North Dakota will be producing as much oil as most oil countries in the world are.
And so we're talking about the debt, we're talking about the budget crisis. Why doesn't someone in the Republican caucus try to force a budget on the Senate Democrats? They've not done it in 4 years.
No, well, first you've got the Republican Party today is more split today than I've ever seen it. You've got
Unlike the Democrats who rally around themselves for anything.
Well, because they are survivalists. They know darn well there's an election coming up on November 5th, 2014, and they know there's 6 or 7 seats that are in danger of switching over. And I'll tell you this, if the Republican Party doesn't wake up and realize it, you know what I would do? And I know you don't agree with me on this. You know what I'd say? Forget about defunding. Even if you defund it, this guy would find he'd steal money or he'd lend it or borrow it or something. He'd work around. However, let it go. You know that Obamacare is going to be a disaster for the majority of the people. Let it go and see what happens.
But the problem is that once it's already implemented, you're never getting rid of it.
Not necessarily. If people see, wait a second, we've been sold a bill of goods, I think the biggest mistake would be, let's say, if it was to fund it, which it won't be, but let's say there is a success in getting it defunded, then they'll always say, well, if you hadn't defunded it, this thing still would have been a great success. It's a different way of looking at it. I'm looking at let it go. When you say it'll never have, sure it will. If you get a Republican Senate and House and eventually a president who, if the people are so upset about 16% of our economy, which is healthcare, totally socialized and totally.
But the American people are upset about it now, and they have been.
They're vaguely upset because they think it's not good. But when it hits you right in the gut, and you see your basic premiums go from $200 a month to $500.
Mine have.
Well, didn't want to say that 'cause you mentioned it to me. But the point is, that's what I'm talking about. When it really starts hurting, let it go. You say it's not here forever. If you get a change in government, you know, there's no question if Romney had been elected, he would have gotten rid of it.
But how do you get rid of a program that you were actually the instigator of, Romneycare?
Well, but that's again, we had the wrong guy in Romney. That's not, he never had the chance, so there's no sense talking and arguing about it. I'm saying is I'd just as soon let them get out. Let them get out with it and let people really get a bad taste of it. That's our best bet.
We're going to need to agree to disagree on that one.
Yeah.